This podcast is sponsored by Monrovia. For nearly 100 years, Monrovia has never stopped pursuing beauty. You can see it in the new plants they introduce and the way they grow them, down to their custom soil blends that help plants thrive. You'll find that beauty in everything Monrovia grows. From annuals to trees, explore an incredible selection handpicked to make your garden exceptional. Shop now at monrovia.com. That's MONROVIA.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Argue About Plants, the podcast for people who just absolutely, positively, absolutely love plants.
But maybe not the same ones. It's not every time. I'm Carol Collins. I'm the associate editor at Fine Gardening Magazine.
And I'm Danielle Sherry. I'm the executive editor here at FG. And Carol, we should have taped the very top of the show where we just, kind of banter back and forth because we said, I started off saying, I really liked this topic. And it's gift plants, everybody. That is the topic for today's podcast is gift plants. And I really enjoyed it because it made me think about the plants most recently that I've given as gifts. I love to give plants as gifts, even to people who aren't plant people. A lot of times I've been known to give plants as gifts. And you were kind of digging it too as a topic.
It's fun. I like the idea of giving gifts. I haven't given a plant as a gift in a while, but that's just, I love it. And when you have friends that are plant people, that makes it especially fun.
So true. So true. So did you just go through the archives in your head of, the last few plants that you've given as gifts? And is that what we're going to see on your list today?
I was just trying to think in general, of plants that would make good gifts.
And I like it.
Yeah, one of them is one that I recently got, and I was like, boy, I would give this one to somebody, that kind of thing. So
yeah. All right. Well, lay it on me. So with that in mind, and that, that criteria in mind, what was the first plant that kind of popped into your list?
This one is one that I added to my garden last summer, and it is pink cotton candy betony. So that's Stachys pink cotton candy. It's hardy from zones 4 to 8. So no matter where the person I'm giving it to is, they probably will be able to grow it. It's what I think makes it a good gift plant is that it stays small. It grows 2 feet tall and maybe 16 to 20 inches wide. So it's got a narrow habit. And there's just nothing to not like about it. That's what I was like. Who could not want this plant? And it likes full sun to partial shade. It's not fussy about soil. It can grow in poor soil, average soil. Fertile is fine if you have it, but definitely should be moderately moist and definitely well drained. So those are sort of those criteria that for a lot of plants really. Mm-hmm. I like the foliage. It has a little basal rosette of. It sort of has a scalloped edge and a nice texture and a medium green. And then it shoots up these wands of literally cotton candy pink flowers. Now, I want to make sure that the person I'm giving it to likes pink because it is pink. But so cute. It's just such a cute little plant. It would go great in a container. You could tuck it in next to a path. I think it would go along with pretty much any color scheme, maybe not for the person that has a very severely modern garden, but it's sort of cottagey. I think the pollinators seem to like it. And there is a Richard Hawkey connection with this plant. This cultivar originated as an open pollinated seedling found in 2003 in the betonies that were under evaluation at the Chicago Botanic Garden. And so it's like, this is the love child of one of Richard Hawkey's, Stachys party. That's how I think it. They all went to Woodstock, all these Stachys, and this was the result. It's just fun, right?
I cannot wait to send a link to this episode to Richard Hockey on that description. He will roll on the floor laughing when he hears that. I love it. I love it. Yeah, betonies, I think, are coming back into vogue. It is a classic cottage garden plant. It is, something that historically you would have seen in a lot of the English garden magazines, and really we're just starting to get hip to it over here in the States. And I feel like we should, because gosh, what a well-behaved plant. What a neat, tidy basil rosette, very, very upright, perfect flowers that, attract pollinators. Like you said, there's not anything to not like about these plants. And I think most people are familiar with humelo, right? Humelo is the the one that Pete Udoff really recommends. But yeah, that cotton candy sounds cool. And I mean, what a great origin story, too.
Exactly.
Well, so I feel bad. We're going to go from Woodstock to kind of like sad, wah, wah, wah. But I will say, over the years, I like to mark, occasions with people by giving them a plant. And a lot of times that is a tree. And I try to focus in on small trees, that sort of thing. And, oh gosh, I feel bad on the heels of so much fun we were having with your plant. But, there's occasions when people have, a family pet that passes away, and in particular when a dog passes away. And I recently had a friend who lost her puppy, and I love to give a dogwood, because if they have the room or the space, or basically the inclination that they would like a small tree, a dogwood is a great tree. And I tend to go for kousa dogwoods, just because I like the 4-season appeal of a kousa dogwood. They have brilliant green leaves, beautiful star-like 4-petal flowers in a myriad of different colors. They get this great raspberry red fruit that the birds absolutely go bananas. But over time, kousas also get exfoliating, gorgeous, gorgeous exfoliating bark. It's silver and it peels away to tans and white. And it's really, really a gorgeous tree in all 4 seasons. And, when you live in cooler climates, that's important. So the one that I've been loving lately, though, takes it up a notch, and that's Wolf Eyes kousa dogwood. And that's a variegated form of kousa, and it is extreme variegation. I mean, these leaves and the foliage on this tree are a very, very light, almost gray-green, with a very generous white stripe down the middle of it. And from a distance, the plant just almost looks albino. I mean, it is so, so white. And it gets these gorgeous greeny white 4-petaled star-shaped flowers surrounding a green bract on it, generally in like late spring, early summer, depending on where you live. It's a little bit later than the native Cornus, Florida dogwoods. It's zones 5 to 8, but it's a tiny tree too. So this isn't like you're not saddling somebody with a dawn redwood that's going to get 100 feet tall. This is 10 to 15 feet tall and 10 feet wide, so for all intents and purposes, it's almost like a shrub. But it's just like I think it's a great little memorial tree. It's not something that, they have to look at and be sad, but it just kind of, reminds them of like, hey, this is my dog's dogwood tree. And, that was the last gift plant I gave. And I highly recommend it for happier occasions too. And that's Wolf Eyes kousa dogwood. All right, Carol, bring up our happiness level again with your next plant, hopefully.
Okay, I've got something groovy for you. In fact, that is the name of the plant.
I mean, we're going from Woodstock with your last plant to groovy for your next plant. I mean, I can tell what soundtrack you've been listening to.
There might be a bit of a theme going on, and not intentionally. So I love dahlias. I feel like it's a fun plant to give as a gift, because you can get them started ahead of the season and give somebody a small plant. that has a lot of the work already done, or you can just give people the tubers.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have a variety, and if it's happy where you're growing it, generally it will increase every year, and that gives you an opportunity to share it with other gardeners. So
Mm-hmm.
I have been growing Groovy for at least 5 years, and maybe longer, maybe more like 6 or 7 years. It's still available. I think Swan Island has it, and they are not hardy for us. These are dahlias in general, hardy zones 9 to 11. The rest of us just have to cut the top down, lift the tubers in the fall, save them indoors until spring, and then you replant them. Everyone says, oh, that's just too much work. Like the folks that are walking by and engaging me in conversation in the neighborhood, and they ask about this plant, and I tell them what's involved. They're like, oh, not for me. But I think it's totally worth it. So my gift recipient would also have to feel like, maybe a little work in the fall, not too much work would not be a bad thing, right? Yeah. So this one is got great color, and that's why I love it. It gets about 6 feet tall and wide, full sun, reasonably moist, well-drained soil, add some compost, it likes fertile soil. And the color is fantastic. It's got dark foliage. It is described as black, but it's more purple, I would say. And the stems are a beautiful dark purple as well. And then the flowers are this intense red, like a ruby red, but with an orange undertone that's a little bit variable. And so it just has like a glowing effect, and especially against that dark foliage, it's hot, but it's like a simmering kind of hot color.
Gotcha. Not like sear your eyeballs, but just like a nice focal point.
Yeah. I feel like the foliage color really sort of brings down the temperature a little, like glowing embers kind of. I don't know, a cool plant. Again, the person would have to really like red. I do. So, I think dahlias are totally worth it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And just so I'm visualizing, well, of course, everybody can go to finegardening.com, click on the podcast tab. You'll see the plant list and all of our photos there. But so I can visualize it in the moment. We're not talking dish dahlia. We're not talking these monster flowers, or are we?
No, I'm sorry. I should have mentioned, because dahlias are very variable in the size of the flower. So this one has like a 4-inch wide double flower.
Nice. Okay.
So, it's like
so that's sizable, but not like bend over, I'm going to have to stake this thing 80 bazillion times. Gotcha.
Yeah. I do stake them. And generally what I do is I put the stake in at the time that I put the tuber out. So after the last frost, let another week or two just to make sure the weather is settled, put in the tuber, put in the stake at that time. And then you don't have to worry about accidentally driving the stake through the poor tuber.
Through the tuber.
When you go later in the season to do it. And it helps you remember where it is, because it does take a little while to get going unless you pre-start it.
Nice. And I will say that Carol, true to form, did gift me and our producer dahlia seeds not too long ago. And I think that is the last gift plant that I received. It was not this particular variety, but it was one we talked about on a different show. So yes, she is a dahlia gifter, guys. So if you like dahlias, become friends with Carol. All right. I'm going to go to a different occasion. We did a sad occasion and the tree that I like to give to people in a sad occasion. But for a happy occasion, I have been known to give trees as wedding presents. So if you don't like a tree, you don't want to invite me to your wedding. And my favorite tree to give as, a wedding present is an Eastern redbud. That's Cirsus canadensis, zones 4 to 8. It is a North American Eastern native plant. So I like that aspect of things. And mostly because weddings are in June, July, and August, a lot of times, the tree is in full foliage mode. And the foliage is heart-shaped, Oh, so so it really, it hits on that, heartfelt gift and weddings and, all of that. And people get very excited about it. Generally, I'll snip a leaf off and I'll put that in the card and then, arrange delivery later for the tree to come to them. But the thing about this is that it's a great tree. It's a great tree for people who, are plants people and aren't plants people, because it's an easy tree to grow. It's not very discerning about its location, full sun to partial shade, even into some dense shade for the cirrus. And it takes lean soil, fertile soil, a little bit moist soil, dry soil. I mean, it's really, really variable as far as its conditions are concerned. This is also considered a small tree too, because these only get to be, the straight species is only 15 to 30 feet tall and about 15 to 20 feet wide. I know that sounds bigger in comparison to the dogwood, the kousa dogwood we were talking about, but that's still for a tree small and manageable. And the great thing is you give it to them and it's, it's got heart-shaped leaves. Oh, great, whatever. But the real prime season for a redbud is early spring. And that is when that beautiful silver bark that the tree has all of a sudden starts sprouting pea-like magenta pink flowers from every crack and crevice on the tree. It's amazing. You'll see it come right out of the trunk in some instances, these flowers. So there's no foliage. It just looks like this bright pink, magenta purple firework in your yard. And it's awesome. So then you get those, the flowers drop, you get those beautiful leaves, and it gets great fall color too. It gets kind of a golden yellow color. And as it matures, you'll even get these cool pea-like seed pods that I think are kind of cool and ornamental too. Don't worry, it doesn't seed all over the place. You'll get a few spry seedlings here and there, and then you have more wedding presents, people. Dig them up and give them. You can get all sorts of different cultivars. There's Rising Sun, which has this cool, golden foliage to it. There's Forest Pansy that has a gorgeous, gorgeous purple leaf foliage to it. But yeah, I'd say Eastern Redbud, it's my favorite wedding gift to give. If with the right receiver on the other end, it is my jam as far as a gift plant is concerned. All right, Carol, I've done 2 trees, which I feel like is a big thing to saddle somebody with. And I feel like you've done a better job of more plants that anyone would be happy to get as a gift. What else do you have on your list? I'm hoping you went big with one of yours so I don't look like a jerk.
Well, I mean, this one isn't big, but it is. It's a shrub. It's a small tree.
Oh, good. Okay.
So this one is Wabi-Sabi doublefile viburnum.
Oh.
Okay, Carol. So this is Viburnum plicatum variety tomentosum, and the string of letters SMVPTFD.
Give me an A.
Right? But you can find it under Wabi-Sabi, WABISABI. I think it's a proven winners. It's zones 5 to 8, and it's a dwarf selection of the species. So it is only 2 or 3 feet tall and 4 to 5 feet wide. So you can think of the habit as being sort of reclining and horizontal. Laying back on a chaise lounge and flowering its head off. And I saw this and I bought it right before Mother's Day, and they had them in full glorious bloom in time for the holiday. I don't think they naturally would be blooming that early in our region. I think they're probably giving them some shelter and a little extra warmth somehow to get them blooming so that people see what they can do and give it to their mother or anyone else that you want to gift a plant to early in the season. But it's what's nice about it as a gift plant is it's very easy care. It's quite undemanding. It likes partial shade. It can take full sun if it has enough moisture, but not fussy about soil. I had it in a container for a whole season, and I could not believe how many roots it made in that single season. And because of that, I would say you probably want to put it in the ground if you can. But if you can't, give it a nice large container, and I think it should do well for, a few years at least. But you're going to want to make sure that you're in a warmer zone. Like I would say no colder than zone 6, and probably more like zone 7 if you're going to leave it in the pot all the time. Heavily textured leaves. So in addition to those gorgeous lace cap white flowers that it gets probably after Mother's Day for most of us, but in early summer, and then these like pleated leaves with just a gorgeous texture, and then smoky, moody red fall color. It looks great. I feel like it just looks great all year long. It has cute branch structure. When the leaves come off, it looks like a little bonsai. Yeah, I can't say enough about this tree or shrub. I came across it sort of by accident, fell in love, and impulse bought it, and I think it would make a great gift.
I will say this was a new shrub to me until we shot a video last May that was a container gardening video, and all of us were tasked with, buying our own plants and pot for this container gardening video that we did. And Carol had this gorgeous copper patinaed vessel that she found at like a tag sale, right, yeah. Carol? Okay. Yeah, this tag sale, and had this Wabi-Sabi viburnum as the showpiece in that container. And it was gorgeous. And I loved your explanation of it, just, lounging like in a chaise lounge, because that's what it looked like in the container. It had this really, really interesting structure, gorgeous blossoms. But I was looking at the structure going, that is a really cool plant. So yeah, you immediately made me a fan of that plant. I looked for it at the nursery later on that season and did not find it. And I can see why, because if the nursery had a dozen of these, I'm sure they were snapped up immediately because it was that cool of a plant. So Wabi-Sabi, easy to remember. That's for sure. Easy to remember. So, oh God, I got to put that on my shopping list. Hold on. My next plant is a little bit more manageable. I'm not going to give somebody another tree. But I have, I have friends of all shades and colors when it comes to gardening, newbies and, people who have been gardening for 60 years. So here's a plant that I would give to all of the above, and that's Major Wheeler honeysuckle, and it's Lonicera sempervirens, Major Wheeler, and that is zones 4 to 8. It is in Eastern North America native, and it is a vine, but it's a well-behaved vine. It's vining 6 to 8 feet tall and about 3 feet wide. The deal is I feel like honeysuckle gets a bum rap, because a lot of people think honeysuckle and they think these imported Japanese species that are known as weedy. They take over, they get covered in powdery mildew. They're just terrible. That is not what we're talking about here. We are talking about a tough as nails native plant that's just gorgeous. The reason I give this as a plant is as a gift plant is it does great in a container. It will overwinter well in a container, obviously zone 4. So if you're going to grow it, you always want to back up your zone by 1. So if you're going to grow it in a container and overwinter it, at least do that in zone 5 and above. It does great in the ground. It obviously needs something to climb on. For me, I have my personal one in the corner of my vegetable garden, and it kind of vines along the fence, and it's awesome. It attracts hummingbirds like no other plant I have ever grown. And I've grown a lot of hummingbird plants in my day, and this one is just, they're like cat's meow. They love it. It's these beautiful, generally in mid-spring, you'll find these beautiful mid to late spring and through the summer, all the way through the fall, this thing keeps flowering. long tubular red flowers with a little bit of an orange throat to them. The tubes are tiny. They're, maybe pencil thickness, and they're clustered together in 3s, 4s, and 5s on the plant. So they're really, really showy. It's awesome. The foliage too, I will say, is really cool because on Major Wheeler, this variety, it is glossy. The leaves are, kind of teardrop shape, smaller, glossy green. So even in those scant few months that it's not in bloom, you're seeing that gorgeous foliage, and it's just stunning. It's semi-evergreen depending on where you are in the zonal range. Mine right now, I'm looking out at it in April, and it looks, it's holding on with some leaves. Most of them are on the ground, but it's starting to push its new growth. So, it's hanging on there, but full sun, well-drained soil, not really picky. Moist, well-drained soil would be ideal. Obviously, I have it in the vegetable garden, so it probably gets the best soil of what I have at this point on my property. But it's a stunner. It's a stunner. A hummingbird plant, and who doesn't like that? Getting a hummingbird plant that they could just put in a pot on their patio and have it, vine all over the place, put it in, along a fence, on their mailbox. This is a plant that could do all of those things and really, really look good and attract gobs of hummingbirds.
Did you say how long the vines get?
Yeah, 6 to 8 feet tall.
Oh, that's not bad.
And then about half as wide. But really, this is one of those vines that you kind of have to encourage it a little bit to get going. And then once it's on your fence, your mailbox, whatever, it'll do its own thing. But and it's easily kept in tow. It's a well-behaved vine. This is not, this isn't going to be the vine that took over your yard. Well, Carol, we have come to the end of our gift-giving extravaganza, and I would like to know your final gift that you would like to give to the audience.
My final gift is a well-behaved woody. So it is Tiger Eyes Sumac, Rus typhina bale tiger. And you will sometimes see it just listed as bale tiger, and they don't mess around with the tiger eyes and the registered trademark thing at all. But either way, such a cool plant, zones 4 to 8. It is a cultivar of the staghorn sumac, which is native to a wide swath of eastern North America. And this particular cultivar has the most gorgeous chartreuse foliage. And so I feel like this is a gift for someone that loves a good foliage plant. And it is well behaved. It stays 6 feet tall and wide. And so you can put it almost anywhere. Like Tom Hobbs up in Vancouver has it in a container. It seems to do just beautifully there. It is very, very unfussy about soil. It can grow in poorly drained soil. It can grow in dry soil. It can grow in urban conditions. Put it in your health strip. It'll be fine. Definitely needs full sun though. It will not have the color that it has in full sun. If you stick it in the shade, it'll probably be more green. It has those gorgeous compound leaves and I forget what you call the little stem in the middle of the compound leaves, but it is reddish. And so you have a little color contrast just from that. It's got a tidy habit, but what I have heard is that as plants get older, they can sort of sucker a little and form a small colony, but it's never really going to get totally out of control, I don't think. And I've seen this in a lot of different styles of gardens. So I mentioned Tom has it in a container, but I've also seen it mixed in with a border with a lot of annuals and tropicals. It looks great with those kind of plants. You can use it in a small grouping, and it's got a lot of structure and color. So this is one that it would be this would be for a special person that really likes a useful but a slightly unusual plant. But I think a lot of people would like this one.
It's such a a focal point plant. You really do. You see it even when it's mixed in with, a bodacious tropical border with bananas and all sorts of stuff. I was just looking back at Barbara Wyrick's garden that was in Michigan, and that's, about as far away from, a tropical location as you can get, but it looked so interesting and cool in her garden, and she had this tropical border and there were these bodacious plants, but my eye zeroed in on that sumac, which was just glowing and gorgeous. So that's a really good call. I feel like you saved the best for last, Carol. That's a good call. I like that plant as a gift. Gotta write that one down for the next time I need to give something. So my last gift plant is, I'm going to call it my pay it forward plant, because I was gifted it and now it has made babies that I have gifted to people. And that's a Mediopicta Alba agave. Agave Americana, Mediopicta Alba. It's zones 8 to 11. So clearly this is not going to be a hardy plant that people are going to stick out in their garden in our neck of the woods in New England. But, in warmer zones, yes, it will be hardy. This was gifted to me probably 15 years ago, 14 years ago, when I first started with fine gardening. I visited Dennis Schrader, who owns Landcraft Environment, a wholesale oddball tropical nursery out in Long Island, New York. And he knew that I had kind of an affinity for agaves. I was just starting to collect them a little bit. And he gifted me with this plant. And because he saw that I had taken a shine to it basically on his patio. And it's this gorgeous agave, these long blades that are blue. I mean, there's not even worth saying blue-green, but it's blue on both outer edges with this stark white wide rib down the middle. And so each one of those blades and kind of this yucca cactus-like looking plant has that contrast, that blue and white, and you just see this plant from a distance. Agaves could not be any easier, honestly, to raise. And even in my zone 6, sometimes 5B garden, I have them obviously all potted in just plain old terracotta pots in well-drained soil. I bring them out when the threat of frost is over, usually in May. I bring them back in November when the first snowflakes start flying. I don't have good light in my house, but I throw them in whatever windowsill might get the best light, and they carry through just fine through the winter. If I remember to give them a little bit of water, great. If I don't, they let me know. They look a little rugged when I put them back out in May. But agaves naturally pup. So, when an agave is happy, it will send out the rare, depending on the variety, this one is rare, the rare pup here, there, that comes out as these little baby plants on, I guess it's considered like a stolon, that an aerial stolon that just kind of comes out from the base. You can snip that off and then root it. And I did that for a period of years with mine that finally got big enough to start pupping. And a few years ago, I gifted everybody on the fine gardening staff, I believe, a little one of these Mediopicta Alba agave pups, because it's such a super cool agave. In its native environment, this is a 3 to 4 foot tall and wide plant. I mean, unless you're listening from New Mexico, that's not happening for you. You're going to grow this as a container plant. It's going to get maybe 1 to 1.5 feet tall and wide, if you're lucky. And as I said, full sun, it's a cactus. Well, for all intents and purposes, think of it as a cactus and put it in a bright spot. But yeah, it's a weird one, but it's one that, I just kind of like passing along because it was given to me and pay it forward, right?
It makes a great gift, I can tell you. And mine is still alive. I am happy to report. It hasn't gotten a lot bigger, but I feel like this will be its year.
Yeah, it's slow. It's slow on the uptake. And when you go, when you try to search out this plant online, you see that it's kind of pricey for an agave. And I think that's why it's a slow grower and slow to pop out. But oh, yay, I'm so glad. I'm so glad it's still alive, Carol. And now, because everything sounds better with a British accent, here's Peter to talk about gift plants that he'd like to receive.
I feel as though you listeners may be under the assumption that I do not like or even appreciate plants. That's not true. I have a lovely little garden at home and tend to it often. In fact, Danielle tells me that I had the best crop of arugula she'd ever seen last spring. But I do tend to go off topic during my time on this podcast because, well, I feel there are at least 3 other folks in each episode who have more plant knowledge than I, and my minutes are better spent educating those listening on the nuances of English football or other such things. But today, I'm going to stay on topic for once and discuss plants. Not those that I like to give as gifts, but those that I would like to receive as gifts. So here goes. Plant number 1, English daisy, or the Latin Bellis perennis. This is a charming perennial best known for its low-growing nature and cheerful mid-spring blooms. The flowers come in shades of rosy pink and white, and all sport a delightful yellow centre. It would be great planted along my pathway in partial shade out back. Plant number 2, Queen Elizabeth grandiflora rose. This is an exquisite old-time favourite with a musky fragrance. The blossoms are a dark pink and are perfectly formed. Given the disease-resistant nature of this rose, I think it would make a great addition to my property. And finally, plant number 3, Blue Peter rhododendron. Although the blooms may not actually be blue, more of a glaucous purple, the compact 4-foot-tall and wide habit of this rhodie is quite lovely. I need a new foundation plant for the front of the house, and this would be the perfect solution. What's that you say? You hear a subtle theme in my selections? Oh, I'm sure that's just pure coincidence. Happy plant gifting or receiving.
Well, that's interesting that Peter has a laundry list of plants that he would like to receive, but I was sensing a theme there in his plants. Are those all English, perhaps?
Oh, perhaps. Perhaps.
I love it. All right, so we got Peter's list. Let's see who our expert has as far as their list of gift plants that they like to receive.
I'm Scott Endres, a designer, horticulturist, and co-owner at Tangletown Gardens in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Bartzella Itoh peony is a great herbaceous perennial peony, hardy to zones 4 through 9. I love Itoh peonies in general, and Bartzella is a favorite to gift to someone who is unfamiliar with the lore of Itoh peonies. Because they are blooming and available mid-May here in the north, they make wonderful Mother's Day gifts for the green-thumbed plant moms who seem to have everything else. The first intersectional Itoh peonies were first successfully bred by Japanese botanist Dr. Itoh just after World War II, which the cross is between a traditional Japanese garden peony and a tree peony, with the best qualities of both being the result. Hardier and lower maintenance than tree peonies, and a greater breadth of color and larger flower size than traditional garden peonies would have. Plus, they bloom about a week later than traditional, more common peonies, extending the peony blooming season. Who wouldn't want that? Best part, because of their sturdier stems, their flowers will not flop nor require staking. Win-win. Over time, many notable and collectible Itoh cultivars have found their way to market, but Bartzella wins the gold. Literally. In 2006, Bartzella was the second Itoh peony ever to win the Gold Medal Award from the American Peony Society. Bartzella sports large, bright yellow flowers with a slight red stain in the center. They're really, really quite fabulous. Yes, they have traditional peony fragrance, but with a little spicier note than typical. Wonderfully easy to grow, requiring no staking, and all it asks for is a sunny location, good garden soil, and I find Bartzella to be one of the most vigorous Itoh peonies and it will quickly reach 3 by 3 in size. Jade Butterflies ginkgo is a dwarf upright ginkgo hardy to zone 4 through 8. This little guy packs a punch with all the best parts of its full-size ginkgo relatives in a very petite form, reaching generally only 6 to 12 feet. It'll eventually develop a pudgy upright habit, but can be maintained in other forms or more compact with pruning. Really easy and very versatile. Perfect to shoehorn into the smallest urban garden or into a collector's acreage, this makes a perfect gift to give in plant form. Like all ginkgos, it will have its trademark fan-shaped leaves and reliable clear yellow fall color. Unlike most deciduous trees, ginkgos will defoliate all at the same time within hours in the same fall day. A really remarkable display if you're around to witness it. If not, a perfect yellow tree skirt will be left behind and is notable in and of itself. Jade butterflies, like all ginkgos, are adaptive to a wide variety of soil types and even through growing conditions that are tough. And I would say this plant in general is a tougher than nails type plant once established. Another thing that's nice about this is it makes a great gift for new homeowners or an established gardener who has everything. Because of its dwarf nature, easy to grow habits and characteristics, and unique botanical lineage, the Jade Butterflies ginkgo truly will stand the test of time. Speaking of which, the ginkgo fossil record dates back some 200 million years. That's a long time. And the other interesting fun fact about ginkgos is they have their own division, Ginkgophyta, with a single class order, family, genus, and species, of which Ginkgo biloba is the only representative plant. That's pretty unique in the plant world and a pretty unique green gift to give to someone you love. So that's enough about hardy plants. Up here in the North Country in true Zone 5, Zone 4, depending on how optimistic we are, sometimes we really get a big case of zone envy. And yes, we can grow things that are beyond Zone 4 and 5. We just have to be a little careful in how we tend them. One favorite plant that stretches this zone limit for us here in Minneapolis is the pink jasmine. Another name for that, the many-flowered jasmine, or I tend to just call it by its scientific name, jasmine polyanthum. Typically hardy to only zone 8 to 11, I actually successfully grow it here year-round. And I actually love to give it as a gift. And the best time to give this gift of love is generally late winter or early spring. That's when we'll see them showing up at the northern garden centers when they are just in tight bud, ready to release that fragrance when Minnesotans are at their peak of cabin fever. It's a great cure for that cabin fever, and it's a reminder that the beautiful green and flowers and loveliness of summer and spring is close at hand. So of course, you can give it at any time of the year, but that adding that little punch of fragrance into the house a little earlier than the garden season here is just so well received by gardeners and non-gardeners alike. The plant itself is wonderful in that after the initial bloom inside, I'll tend to transition it to the warmer outdoor patio situation, and it's a great container component or complement to other container plants. So I love to use it in conjunction with other textures, colors, forms of tropical plants, for instance, or blooming plants in a container on a sunny patio. And it adds a little bit of airiness and looseness to a container, taking a little bit less serious approach to a container design. You certainly can let that plant grow up. It's technically a vine. If you give it a little bit of support with a lovely small obelisk or trellis, it will grow up over the course of the summer. I tend to keep mine in a pot, and I'll keep that as the one element in the pot as the summer closes, and I'll bring it inside for the winter months. In the winter, I tend to keep it in the coolest room in my house and the coolest and brightest window that I have. And I do that because I kind of want the plant to kind of go into a little bit of rest period And also the cooler nights by a cold window in Minnesota and a warmer day with the radiators on full charge will actually usually induce that plant to bloom again, triggering that wonderful fragrance in late winter, early spring, which we all love so much. So jasmine, polyanthum, a good gift for the gardener, a good gift for yourself, a good gift that keeps on giving. So another great plant gift that I love to give. Not all the plant lovers in my life actually have gardens. Some have fabulous condominiums, some have apartments, some are younger people just getting into the plant world and are starting with a house full of houseplants. And houseplants are more popular than ever. So one of my favorite plants to give to somebody that doesn't have an actual garden outside, or somebody that does, is the Chinese money plant, or Pilea peperomoides. Another name for this plant is friendship plant. And it's a great plant that is wonderful, easy to grow. It's technically hardy to zone 9 through 11, which is also, incidentally, kind of the plant hardiness zone of a traditional house. So it's an easy plant that I feel does best in indirect light, indoors. It's a plant that has wonderful coin-shaped leaves, and the mother plant will get bigger and bigger and almost tree-like over time. I've seen maturing, I should say, Chinese money plants in the 2 to 3 foot range, and they can be trained into small trees in inside setting, or you can kind of let the mother plant have a whole bunch of little pips or baby plants surrounding it, so it becomes almost more bush-like over time in an indoor setting. Like all indoor house plants, definitely want to give a little bit of fertility during the growing months, so spring, summer, early fall, and let your houseplants have a rest during the winter months. Just like us, we need a little bit of a break in the winter from our gardening endeavors, and our plants need a little bit of rest too. But as we move on into the growing season, just like us, good nutrition will keep us healthy and happy as we're more active, and I recommend that for the Chinese money plant as well as all indoor plants, starting at this time of the year all the way through early fall. Just follow the label directions. Try to use something that's a little bit more earth-friendly inside. I personally like Nature Source liquid plant food. It's a good balanced organic form of fertility that's seed extract based, so it gives the plants a little nutrition, and all the essential nutrients that are found in a seed are extracted in liquid form, and then you mix it with water, and just every time you water your plant, you can give a little bit of fertility to your houseplants. So anyway, Chinese money plant, great plant. Everyone should have one in their indoor plant collection. If you don't already, give a gift to yourself. Why not? You deserve it. And also, if you know friends that don't have one yet, either share a little bit of your own. Heck, you probably have a few little pips that are able to be given, or just get one at the garden center. They're lovely, interesting, wonderful plants that everybody loves. So that's it for today. Hope you all are having a good green thumb moment in your own worlds, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Well, you know, beggars can't be choosers, but I would take any one of those gift plants that were just mentioned. I hope I get those.
Right? Almost any plant would make a good gift plant if it's from the right person, right?
Yeah. That's true. That is true.